All right, I motion that we begin the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? And Tony, you gotta say your name on the phone when you vote.
Tony Tringali, aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Do we have any public comment? The sheet is empty. We will move to PTO update.
Okay. We have the final numbers in from the fall festival, and we netted $4,600. In the last month, the PTO provided the food and table settings for the 8th grade luncheon, provided volunteers, hot chocolate, coffee, and treats for the winter extravaganza, provided volunteers for the book fair, paid for the supplies for the Fight the Flu baskets for each classroom. We also gave out school supplies for the classrooms last week. The PTO will also be providing dinner to the teachers for their holiday parties. Yearbooks are now for sale online, and you can see the link in the newsletter from Mrs. King. The link also allows you to upload pictures to be placed in the yearbook. So please upload pictures you may have from any of the school events and activities. The 8th grade families also have the option to provide a dedication to their 8th grade student in the yearbook at an extra cost. Most importantly, we have open board positions on the PTO and are looking to fill these positions ASAP. So please reach out if you are interested.
Any questions for the PTO?
Do you know the open positions? Is it permanent?
I want to say everything, but I don't. It's definitely
President,
president, vice president. Well, I don't
Secretary.
Yeah, secretary's open. I don't know about, is vice president open?
Is that you?
So I don't know what's open.
Okay.
But president is open and secretary is open. My position is very ambiguous, but is also open. So sure, anybody is welcome.
How are you guys recruiting?
That's a great question, and Celeste knows the answer to that, but this is part of the recruiting process. Just throwing
We're all
it out
there.
there. I don't know, I think we've all expressed that it should be like public knowledge, but we're kind of hoping that we'll see people that look like they're interested. It's kind of
If you do, let us know.
yeah.
Send them our way first.
It seems like, as you guys know, from Andrea and Celesta, it's kind of big shoes to fill. So, I don't know, it has a lot of commitment, like, you don't, like, I have a child still at home, so it's kind of like, you know, it's hard to do unless all your kids are at the school, so.
It is a lot. We appreciate all that the PTO does. Thank you.
You're welcome, it's mainly Celesta. I pop in every now and then to get credit for things like this. You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much. Principals update.
I gave everybody copies and the dashboard is up there. A couple of things on the dashboard. Our enrollment is a little bit down from last month, and I had a conversation with Ms. Velasquez, and she has offered positions and is waiting to hear. We had a new kindergartner start today, and we have a new student starting after the break. So hopefully we will see that go up.
Any cause for that reduction?
No, but what I did do on the second page of your, or actually the third page of your notes, last month we talked about the reasons for withdrawals. So when a family withdraws, we give them an exit survey. So I got this information from Ms. Velasquez. So the main reasons we've seen: 4 families, it was transportation difficulties; 2 families moved completely out of state; 2 families, they said the academic rigor; 2 families,
So academic rigor, they said too much or not enough?
not enough.
Not
And then 2 families said we have poor school to home communication, and 2 families said we have poor teacher-parent communication. So that was, when she sent me the numbers for the end of November, those were the reasons we had been given up to that point. Yes, the enrollment by county, what I did, I just added the number of students per county because we just have always had the percentage. But one thing we're really excited about, if you look over on the discipline, we, for the month of November, had 0 out-of-school suspensions. We did have 8 in-school suspensions, so we're really excited about that. Daily average attendance went down a little bit, but of course, this is the time of year that we're seeing a lot of sickness. So I have ordered, for teachers that don't have homerooms, and I've asked the teachers who have homerooms to send out to parents. Ms. Umstead said Lysol wipes and spray kills the most sickness. So we do have a supply in the office for teachers that need it, so we're just trying to really keep that sickness.
Is this, any reason or just unexcused?
That's a great question. I think it's any reason. I think it's any reason, excused or unexcused. Any questions on the dashboard?
Are we fully staffed?
Except for, we're still looking for a lunch person. That's just very basic entry pay, but as far as teachers and everything else, yes.
Okay.
And we did just contract out with Scott Gallagher, who is also one of our parents. He's our IT support specialist. He started last Monday. He's on campus Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 12. He's on call pretty much whenever we need him, and he did end up coming in last Wednesday and Friday, right, Tyler? So he's just trying to get to know our system, look it over, and make sure that, you know, so he can learn things.
Background checks completed?
Background check was done.
Right. I like the breakdown in the, so I'm assuming this is the RTI based on academic and behavior,
Yes.
so.
So it tells you how many, so like for kindergarten, they have 0 RTI for behavior. This is tier 2 and tier 3.
So I guess something that I'm seeing that I wasn't consciously aware of. I mean, so one, 7th grade, kudos to them. I was expecting that to be
To be
different.
higher.
4th grade. We've seen a little bit, I think, in some of the scoring, that 4th grade is a little bit of a concern. Is it specific to a class? Is it a group of kids? Are there any common factors that are causing 4th grade to be higher? Or was that a similar group that we had in previous years and experienced a similar issue with?
Yes.
Yes, it's the.
Third grade
last year
is
was the
that,
third grade.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's some challenging students. They test really high generally. Their milestone scores are really high, their end of year map scores are really high. There's just some stronger behavior, there's some stronger personalities in there, let me just say that. And I think some of these probably rolled up from last year and have just continued in the tier process. Because I don't know exactly what the breakdown was last year. But yeah, that's a more challenging group behaviorally. Our gifted number has gone down, but some of those students that have withdrawn, we lost a couple of gifted students. But after the MAP assessments, Ms. Kessler she will be evaluating 14 students, 10 in 1st grade. Yeah, a lot of 1st graders, 2 in 2nd grade, and 2 in 4th grade. We did not have any in 3rd or 5th that scored high enough on the MAP assessment because we look at the 90th percentile or above for reading or math or both. And then a couple of these are parent requests because a parent can request at any time, you know, to have their child tested for gifted. So hopefully she'll be testing those in January, so hopefully by February we'll know how many of those. Then I also shared with you the last page is the winter map, which was quite shocking to many of us, even as a school. It's not in color, but you'll see.
Is it up there, everybody?
Yes, I can put it up here.
Yeah.
So our goal is that we want our kids at least right here, scoring 50% or higher, which is your national average. Our stretch goal is that they will score 65% or higher. And of course, if they're in red, they're below the 50% average. So this is the most red we've ever
Yeah.
seen.
By many multiples. yeah.
Yes, we were, really concerned. We've got DeMarcus right here. She's doing pretty well because she teaches 6-7 right here. So she only had one group, which crazily enough, this is, that accelerated group of students. So we did see a lot, which is very common to see some of your accelerated students not grow because they score so high the first time.
Right.
So DeMarcus, she did really well. Crazy thing here in Peacock, she did not come back to work until close to October. So this was a sub. This was a sub running this classroom that looks really good. Seriously. So what we did, of course, and Andrea came in, Andrea, I see her quite a bit. I was quite surprised by these because I've been here since day one and I've never seen scores like this. So I knew that immediately when I saw this, we needed to do something and we needed to do something really fast. So on one of the pages, the really long page, you will see kind of our action plan going forward. So we've talked about some differentiation because you cannot teach a classroom, and I'm a firm believer on this, without differentiating. Because even in a gifted classroom, you have students on various levels. So we've had some staff meetings about differentiation. It is now required to be documented in lesson plans.
So, okay, this is growth goals,
Yes.
right? So not whether or not where they rank in terms of mastery.
This is
Pure
if
growth.
they, so right here, this is saying 71% of the students in Miss Peacock's class met. So what MAP does, you take it in the fall,
Mhm.
and it says, okay, it says, okay, this is where the student is at. So then it sets a long-term goal and says by the end of the year, in this many instructional weeks, this is where the student should be. But then it also says mid-year, winter, after so many instructional weeks, this is where it should be. So then teachers can run a report and see which students met their goal for winter, which students did not, which students exceeded. So 71% of her students met or exceeded their goal.
Okay.
So you've got a class like right here, Crow's homeroom for math, 43% of their students met or exceeded their goal. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Those are growth goals.
Right, right, and it's set based on each student. Another thing we did, I had each teacher complete a winter map analysis 2019 worksheet that I got from Mr. Stewart that they use at the museum school, and kind of tweaked it a little bit more for our needs. And then each grade level is creating an action plan. It's literally a short-term improvement plan. Like, what are you going to do to look at your students who didn't meet their growth? So here's a notebook. You're welcome to look through these. So they were due by today. And the deans, so Donna approved her grade levels and Jody approved hers. And so this is something that we can, and literally they target, these are the targeted students. This is our goal for them. How am I going to accomplish this goal? What resources do I need? Because if it's a resource that a teacher needs that he or she doesn't have, we need to get it. And then who's responsible for doing it? And how am I gonna know that they've met this goal? So if y'all would like to look at this, I have this for you. We have also, our specials teachers have a large 2-hour block daily from about 10:15 to about 12:15. So we have now pulled them to help with our tier 3 students, which is your highest tier, to go into classrooms or pull those students and do some interventions. Work with them one-on-one, work with them in small groups. So there's a typo. Mr. Pafford is working with first grade. Mr. Willis is working with kindergartners. Second and third, that's our biggest group of students on tier 3. So Miss Robinson and Miss G, who is our new Spanish teacher, are working with them. And then Miss Murphy is working with 4th and 5th graders. We also have Miss Murphy going into 4th grade during their math time to work with some students that are struggling. She goes in every day from 10:15 to 11:15. I met with the 617, 718, so they have kind of changed the way they were doing their supplemental time. So Tyberski and Lovelace are working on math during supplement, and DeMarcus and Parks are working on reading. For 7-8, they keep a class for a week at a time, and in a 4-week period, they rotate through all the teachers. So Moppin and Tonis are doing ELA, Brooks and Burns are doing math and science. And even Tonis has done an action plan where she's pulling a lot of reading into her history class. So I'm hoping that by spring, we see a tremendous improvement in these scores.
Well, I guess my concern maybe, as far as someone is like this, I mean, obviously this isn't new, right, these things, so how do we get to the point where, yeah, it's just all red? I mean, 'cause this is a known thing, the girls are known, how we're teaching is known, the growth departments are all known. So it seems like a epic failure at one part that led to.
Well, and I'm trying to think honestly about, so what type of, because it's one thing if you see a localized problem, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that you can at least, I can glean an action plan out of that. When you see it uniform across, I mean, like, I don't know of anything.
You get the wrong tests?
I mean, it's almost, it'd be something like that. I'm like, what sort of issue would cause a huge change like that?
I'm gonna be bluntly honest. I think that it is a matter of, and this is why we did the PLCs a little bit differently this year. I think it is a matter of some of our faculty members have kind of moved away from why we were founded. And let me explain why.
This isn't some, right, this is.
Right, but like we were workshop model. But in some teachers' mind, the workshop model is I do 4 separate groups and I do 4 separate worksheets and they're working silently. That's not who we are. That's not who we are. I mean, when I ran my classroom, you would come in at any given time and during workshops, it was organized chaos is what I called it, because the kids are bouncing ideas off each other, they're talking, they're moving, and I differentiated in my workshops. So we're trying to get teachers back to, number one, doing workshops, but differentiating in those workshops. Jody Smith is doing a PLC on guided reading and guided math, because that's going to improve these scores. Gina Tonis and Ms. Burns are doing rigor and critical thinking, because sitting there, and I'm not saying worksheets are bad, but that's not why we were founded.
How do they, right, and so founded, you're executing, like, how does it revert back? And then how does it revert back unnoticed? Like, is there not enough evaluations going on? Like, how do they get to that point and then?
Do you still have the initial map test that we did at the beginning of the year? Do you have that sheet available?
With the ones that were in the bottom and top.
Well, it'd be equivalent to this layout, but rather than, because we did one right towards the beginning of the year, correct?
Yeah, the one I did at the beginning of the year, and yes, I can pull it up. It was like the percentage of students we had in the top 20% and the bottom 20%.
I mean, but my recollection, which is poor at times, is that our early year evaluation was very good, I thought.
Yeah, because you can't get this for fall because
That's
there's
right.
nothing to compare it to. There's
Yeah,
nothing.
Even like last year's fall.
Right.
Last year's winter wasn't.
No, last year's winter looked great. 2018 looked great. Now, we did move the map assessment up 3 weeks. So some of the teachers questioned, could that have been the issue?
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, the way Mike always explained it to me was that my MAP sets up, so there were about 14 instructional weeks between fall and this testing, and there's about 14 instructional weeks between winter and MAP. So if you're telling me 3 weeks of instruction, in December's gonna, and then of November's gonna pop this up, I would say, I would disagree.
When was the testing last year? Was it after Thanksgiving break?
It was like,
See, I would think that would be even more detrimental.
it was like December, like
That was when
last week, we
everyone got-
would have been
We had a lot
testing.
of
Yeah.
kids out too, so.
Yeah.
And so we
I think
moved it
that-
up, just trying to have the same number of instructional weeks between each. And Matt kind of sees that and says, okay, so you've had about 14 weeks, so this is where this child should be, and so forth.
Mhm.
So, fear that I have, and documentation is important, but documentation is not what changes this. I mean, it's the thought process that goes into how they crafting lesson plans and how they're teaching and instructing. And I assume that we've been doing classroom evaluations on an ongoing basis. Were there indicators that we were already tracking that we were concerned about? Or, I guess I don't wanna, when we go into the class, we see excellent instruction, quality, differentiation, model-based, hands-on. If we're seeing all that,
And then this happens.
and then we're seeing all this, then this would be the wrong solution, because, documenting, a better job documenting differentiation doesn't necessarily get you a better job of implementing, which is what we care about right now. It's the beginning process to the execution, which is really what we care about. But, so I guess the question is, have we noticed a problem over the last several weeks?
With some of the evaluations, some of the teachers are not scoring as high as they want to, and was actually having a conversation with a teacher today, because teachers get so when on TEKS evaluations, level 3 is proficient, level 4 is exceeds.
Mhm.
And so I've tried to explain to several teachers, because they get really frustrated if you don't give like 4s, but a 4 means there's no room for you to grow. You are the teacher of whatever that standard is.
Mhm.
If it's professionalism, if it's instructional strategies, when you give a teacher a 4 this early in the year, you're saying there is no room for you to grow. So we've had some teachers receive some 2s, which says you've got room to grow, but then they take it really personal. And I know on the lower school side of things, 3rd grade, Ms. Smith has been working very closely with 3rd grade. She's started working very closely with 2nd grade. So Ms. Smith is really involved in these 2 grade levels. And I just,
Yeah, I go back to, we're using the word some, and it's looking like all. There's something missing on a large scale, and I think it's something, and I'm worried about what's not being caught ahead of time. Because right now, we're in reaction mode. And you can react to fix it, but my concern is how were these things not identified ahead of time? Because that's the only way we're gonna stop this and have these types of things, because again, to the point, if it was 1 grade or 2 grade,
Right,
great, we can
right.
pinpoint it. There isn't 1 grade creep.
right.
So it's not a sum, it's how we're staying on top of just across the board what's going on.
Have you guys tried to dissect this differently? Have you looked at,
Grades versus teachers, maybe?
well, I see grades, I see teachers, but what I don't know is, is it our high-performing students in every single grade that are struggling? And, maybe the changes that we've made in the gifted program aren't connecting. Is it our lower-performing students across all grades that are struggling? Maybe changes to the disciplinary thing, or, are we able to look at it by where in the spectrum they are to see if there's a common thread?
Gifted has changed. Gifted has changed, and I've been working closely, or trying to work closely with Ms. Kessler as much as possible. We had special ed, a large group of our special ed students did not meet their growth goals. So I've been meeting with Ms. Rozier, who is meeting with her team to figure out what's going on that end. And Ms. Smith is gonna be getting in classrooms a whole lot more. Ms. Reynolds, they're just gonna be getting in classrooms. I'm gonna start going into classrooms more.
And check my understanding, so on the special ed kids, their growth is based on where they are, so, you know, they're tagged with a peer group of people. So if you're a third grader and you're scoring at this level, they compare you to other national third graders that score at that same level to determine your projected growth curve, right?
Right,
So I
right.
mean, whether you're gifted, special ed, right in the middle, wherever you are, it's a equivalent peer group that is used to determine your growth.
Yes.
Okay.
And like
Everybody
your
should be
high
able to.
achievers, when they score really high the first time, their winter test, it starts them off at
Sure.
an extremely high level. So we've got a sixth grader with Ms. Tyberski that is starting to learn linear equations. I mean, that is light years above, but his math level is so high. And one of the things in the upper school, the math lab for upper school and reading, it's been slow getting that started. And one of the things Ms. Tyberski, I met with Ms. Tyberski and Ms. Moppin last week. One thing Ms. Tyberski is doing is that one day a week, she's pulling her accelerated kids and she's pushing them. She's challenging them. And then Ms. Moppin said this past Monday, Friday, that she had 12 students in upper school reading lab from the 617, which is the highest she's ever had. But when I met with them last week, I was like, this is how, because I ran upper school math lab last year with Sharon Brooks. And we did use IXL some, but we also just pulled kids and said, what are you working on? Let me help you with your homework. Let's look at this. What are you doing? Because not that IXL is a bad thing. And Sharon has done, she went to a training for IXL and presented to the faculty where you could do a whole diagnostic on each child. And then it kind of puts that child working where they need to be working. But some of these kids just need to be working on what they're working on in class, especially if you have a struggling student. You need to be covering the math or the reading that they're working on.
So I'll say as a parent, we had issues with all the homework being on, is it IXL?
Uh-huh.
And not being able to see what they're working on or where they're struggling, and then not knowing how to help, because we don't see any of it. And I don't
So
know.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I've tried to tell the teachers, IXL is great, but you have to be very intentional with IXL. Like if the homework is just get on IXL for 20
Which
minutes,
is all I've ever heard.
that's ridiculous. Like that's not,
That's all I'm seeing, is what's your
When-
homework, I go on Excel, goes on his laptop, comes back,
No.
says I'm done, and I'm like, okay, well.
that's because here's IXL. I can log into IXL and we have kids that have done this before. If you just say get on IXL, because even as a workstation, I've told teachers, you need to be very intentional with this group's doing this IXL lesson, this group's doing this one. Because if you just tell a kid to get on IXL, we've had 7th graders, they log in, you see kindergarten
Yeah,
through
everything.
whatever skills, they're clicking on 1st grade skills, doing a lesson, I did IXL, you said IXL.
There could be an issue.
That's-
Because that is. all
No,
I've
if they're
seen
given
nowadays.
IXL, it needs to be very intentional.
And it may be, but I'd say again, I have a hard time understanding the value because I don't have the results. And I can't measure where the gaps are, and so only at the point of test do we kind of see what was working and what was not working. And at that point, it's like, okay, it's too late. So then we were able to get the test, we were able to go over it, but again, that was multiple weeks of instruction until we were able to get involved.
Right.
And that's been a concern on our side in terms of how is that being used? Maybe the technology is being misused as a maybe crutch more than
That is, because I said at our last faculty meeting, this doesn't teach children. It doesn't teach children. And some classrooms you walk by and they're constantly on Prodigy. Not a huge fan of Prodigy. Kids love Prodigy because it's games, but you can level it. But again, it's like,
Maybe
it's not,
Home where we need to reduce turn off our electronics and.
But I mean, no, I mean, just, but going by, like,
Yeah.
this doesn't teach children, I
I
mean.
mean, I'm being humorous mostly.
Yeah, I know,
serious,
I know,
right?
I know what you're saying.
Maybe it is a laptops down.
The scary thing is that, you know, it'd be one thing if, you know, all these were 49 and we just barely
Mhm.
nicked the red and we're like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, we just gotta squeeze a little bit more out and we'll be there, like, but there's single digits on there.
I've never seen a single digit.
Our adults should be blue.
Uh-huh.
And then-
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know, I guess my request, and then I'm gonna come together, I would like to, one, I think Eric's request for the breakdown, so we can dig a little bit deeper into what maybe the cause. I would like to understand maybe from your side in terms of how do we stay ahead of this? And I know you have the action plan to react, but I'm more actually concerned about how we, what led from a culture, whatever the behavior was to get to this point. Cause yeah, something got missed.
Am I allowed to speak?
No, there's a public sign-up sheet.
I'm on the
Since you're the only one out.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
please.
Well, I mean, Melissa and I had a conversation recently that there has been a culture shift. And I came to her not from the aspect of my children's classes, they're in Peacock at Willis. I'm actually very happy with their teachers this year. I came in as like a parent walking through the halls, that there is something that changed. There's a shift of like caring more about the students. Like ultimately, when you care more about the students, it's kind of like a work environment. If you care more about your employees than like what other people are, even the customer, they'll perform for you and please the customer, and it makes this perfect circle. If you care more about your students than the ultimate end result, you'll get the end result because you care so much about them and what their needs are that you'll do whatever you need to do. But there is this like, oh, the technology and the like, which I know we're technology school, but like, I told Melissa, I was like, I want to be in charge of like when my kids come home and not think, oh, they've watched a movie and been on the computer all day. Like that's my job to like decide if they should have it or not, you know? But I just see this like, I just was seeing this thing with teachers. It was almost like they didn't care, or like they were like in a little gang of like, oh, like it just wasn't this like, this feeling. And I know that sounds dumb and so simplistic, but it was a feeling of like, do they care about what's going on here? Because it used to be like so passionate and so amazing that you just felt it walking through the halls, and there was like some kind of fracture where, and that could be, it could be just as simplistic as that, that's causing this breakdown of performance, because this, it trickles down to the students, which then trickles to the parents, like caring and wanting to be a part of something special and something bigger than themselves, which is what made us want to be a part of the school in the first place, is because it felt bigger than what other schools were doing. All the other schools care about the scores and about the testing and about that, and the teachers aren't as monitored as closely, but here it's just like she said, like I'd go into a classroom and I was like, quiet. It is too loud in here, you know, just like constant like things like that, instead of like, where's the creativity? Where's the learning? Like the learning through hands-on stuff, like, and I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that was just like my observance, and Melissa saw that and recognized that, and, you know, I think really cared about that, but it just seemed like there was a shift, and I don't know if that's,
We've become very complacent.
yes.
And I don't know if it was coming off such a good testing with scores last year,
Mhm.
but in the last faculty meeting, I said some pretty hard things to the staff, because I've had more parents say to me, we're thinking about changing schools because I can get this at my kid's county school. And I told the staff that, because I'm like, if we don't offer something different, they're not coming. You know, they're not coming. And some teachers are more worried about what they teach than who they teach.
Mhm.
It's, you know, they get in their mind, I've got to do this, 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 but if this is not working, then you stop, you change it, and you make it work, you know?
So what was the staff reaction? I mean, I assume you presented this to the staff.
And
Well,
I actually,
maybe-
the first thing I did, I put 2018 scores up,
Maybe
and then I
Mr.
showed them
Willis,
2019 scores, and I made them write their first reaction. I
you weren't
said,
there?
I was at a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
yeah, I made them write, I said, here's 18, now let me put up 19, write your very first thought.
And what was the result?
Shock, disgust, you know, and that's why I said, you know, and I went back to why we started Liberty Tech, who we are, that we are very hands-on, we are very, you know, this school was founded because we're very hands-on, we're very problem-based, project-based learning, and if we don't offer anything else, we might as well shut the doors now. Because they're gonna go back to Fayette, or they're gonna go to Coweta, or they're gonna go wherever they go.
And this was, you know, that was our discussion when we started that visioning exercise, that if we're nothing special, we shouldn't be anything at all, because we're surrounded by very good schools, you know, there's no shortage of good schools, we have to be something special.
Now, one thing Jody and I have realized, and I've met with every grade level, and this was something that has been brought about. They feel like we have a lack of resources. Not in, you know, we have a math curriculum for 3rd through 8th.
Oh my.
This was
I'm
what was
gonna
brought
fall
to
over
me.
here.
So, I've asked grade levels, what is it that you're lacking, that you need? Get a list to me, because if it's math manipulatives, you know, that's fine. You know, Mike ordered a couple of years ago, each grade level got a kit. I just had a lot because math is my passion and that's what I love to teach. So I brought a lot with me, but then I dispersed that out this year. So it's like, that's what I hear, well, we need leveled readers, or we need this, well, we don't have that.
What did they not have this year, or did they have last
Well,
year?
or what did they not have the very first year? Like, the
That's
first
what I
year we
said.
had better results.
That's
and
what
we
I
had
said. You think we have no
nothing.
resources?
Like, you
Let's
should've
talk
been
no
here year one.
resources. We had nothing. We had nothing.
Yeah, like as a principal, like you feel like that's victim, like shifting blame to like something else to make,
Well, and I taught this model.
yeah.
So don't, you know, you can't argue with me because it's not like I've been out of the classroom for 10 years.
Yeah.
I taught this model and I feel like I taught it pretty well.
Alright, well,
But, yeah.
I would say, definitely, like I said, definitely want the analysis, definitely like that you've got a good reaction. Definitely want to hear maybe next month, your assessment on the changes we need, but also, I mean, obviously, you guys there's something missing that we can help with. Right, as a board that you guys need as a school, we definitely come and let us know. But yeah, I think this is just all a good warning shot. We gotta change some stuff.
Absolutely.
And it is before our, you know, the milestones and, you know, the things like that, which is why we, you know, that's why we love the map. But I also don't think we can wait for the
Oh, no.
next map test.
No.
We have to have some sort of way to get a more consistent heartbeat of the situation.
Which we're taking spring map in March. So that then when the results come back, we still have a good 3 or 4 weeks to take that data, break it down, and prepare for milestones. Which milestones is it? It's state standards. This is not.
Sure.
But this should still not happen,
Yep.
whether it's state standards or not.
One thing that I was gonna look at, so in reviewing the winter data analysis workbook that you shared with us,
Uh-huh.
that the teachers put in the folder, just from a parent perspective, I noticed some things in there that if I got like a one-pager, not trying to make it short for the teacher, but something similar to this as a parent, that would probably help, because based on what a lot of people are saying, because we got the sheet home with their score,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
like, for example, you say the child's Lexile range is this, well, most people don't really know what that means. But like in this, you had like, okay, here's the college and career stretch bands, and like, here's what it means, like, it's just a chart, but it explained it better than the sheet that was received.
Mhm.
And then also, I know that there's that projected proficiency report that tells you as the teachers could pull where it's like the little bubbles, and it shows them from a parent perspective, again, simplified one pager that, hey, here's what your child's projected to do on the milestones. Now, I know some people don't wanna like really focus and get people all scared about the testing, but some parents wanna know because if they, from the school to home connection standpoint, because they wanna know how they can support the teachers and let them know they're not in this alone. And if their child really needs help, they're here to help, but some people just don't know how to help, how to help their
Right.
child.
Are grades still consistent?
As far as like,
Like student GPA, I don't know if we have that, like, is that dipping, or are we consistent there?
yes, we're consistent there because I asked before report cards went home and go home. It should never be a surprise to a parent that their child is failing, because that's a hard thing to justify with a parent. Because a lot of teachers say, well, they haven't been at campus, but as a parent, you're not required to check them in at campus, so it's like you need to keep the communication lines open
Yeah.
with parents. But then like on the action plan, for example, we had, a fifth grade teacher that's doing, an additional help time from 7:30 to 8. Well, there was a parent that doesn't want her kid to participate. And I said, then we can't force that child to participate, so sometimes too, I think too, maybe notifying or working with the parents more too.
Well, I think we have also with this, we have a great asset of parents, I think, who are more involved,
Mhm.
maybe than traditional school, but like I mentioned before, I feel like this year we have the least amount of content to help with. We have the least amount of visibility of what's going on. I think we've seen our kids' grades not necessarily where we expected. And so maybe there's a perspective of how do you create an environment where you need the parents more involved. 'Cause again, I said both my kids, I have no idea. I'm not seeing homework or worksheets or stuff from him. And so I don't know what they're working on, I don't know where to help.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they have no behavioral issues, so we don't hear anything.
Right.
Right. So then it
Right.
comes down to, but I don't know that we're, and like I said, I just think parents is a very valuable asset, and I think finding more ways to get them more involved. And maybe that is more stuff at home that's not on the computer.
Well, and in January, I'm gonna start up the coffee and conversations with the principal like Mike used to do, and like rotate upper school, lower school in and out, just so I can hear from parents, like, what are your concerns,
I'm
what
gonna
are
do the Facebook thing.
the Facebook?
The very last one, we started streaming them.
We can.
We can, yeah, because that, I wanna hear from the parents.
So you go to your favorite Starbucks in Maryland?
Yeah, because I wanna
We
hear
don't
from the
want school
parents what their
Because
concerns are.
$90 coming to Brooks, we know that, so.
I think that's a
Well,
great.
as you know, as we went
Yeah.
throughout the year, the count of parents dwindled, because some people, a lot of people go to work in the morning. So it started
Yeah,
out
I
big.
feel like my
and
head's
dwindled.
kind of above water a little bit, so my goal was January to start those and have those monthly with upper school and then lower school parents
Mhm.
and just see what they're saying.
I do think he's right, like the parents are the most valuable, like having
Oh, yeah.
involved parents who care. Like you wanna do everything you can to keep those parents in communication, like it's better to over communicate.
Than not
Mhm.
Than to
to,
think,
absolutely.
did I communicate enough?
Mhm.
Like, I think sometimes it's easy to think, oh, like, let's just let this blow over and not talk about it, like, always talk about it, like, presidents throughout history, I won't get into politics here, but like, the ones who communicated, even if they were doing stuff you hated,
Yeah.
if they communicated diplomatically, it soothed the situation
Right,
in a huge
right.
way.
Yeah.
So just like doing that, over communicating with parents, because like he said, like that's the greatest asset is keeping the parents, like keeping good parents. And can you edit out all of my comments? Thanks, Tyler. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good evening. Oh, I didn't say, I was realistic.
Once again, Eric is overshooting and delivering, but,
Yeah, nothing's changed, I guess. All right, academic committee, we will be brief, so, Tony, you and I need to set up a new phone conference meeting, and I feel like there's a real urgency to do that quickly, since I think from the academic standpoint, we certainly got a lot of things we gotta engage on here. So, during the week, is there is there a day during lunch or something that you're available?
Yeah, you want to do this week?
Yes.
Okay, how about,
So not Thursday. I could do Wednesday, Tuesday, or Friday.
Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday? I can do Wednesday if we're, no, I can't.
Yeah, it's gonna be a phone conference. And actually, we need to post it, so we gotta post it, so let's do Friday. Can you do Friday?
You want to do Friday?
Yeah, just because we need to post it, since it is a public meeting.
Okay, yeah, Friday at noon?
Friday at noon, and I'll put a teleconference call together. Are you available Friday at noon by chance, Mrs. King?
I think so.
All right, we'll invite you and understand if there's other things that are.
If you, email us well, you can use the same teleconference number that we're on. Just use this one.
Is that an available one?
one of the other committees using
No other committees have meetings on Friday, on this Friday as well. So if you do that, then I can just make a quick thing and post it on the website tonight.
Okay, we'll use that same conference number. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
That's it from academics.
But wait, didn't you have a high school meeting tonight?
Oh, we did have a high school meeting. Mr. Wells, I think you were in attendance in that meeting.
This
No.
one did.
Do you want to give the quick update?
We had 5 or 6 parents, and then the other parents that could not attend are gonna be able to meet with Miss Brooks or Miss Burns, at another scheduled time. Basically, we have created 2 other courses in Infinite Campus. So parents have until January 10th to tell us whether they want to keep their child in Infinite Campus in the high school course of Algebra 1 or Physical Science, or both, or neither. If they choose not to take the high school course, they'll stay in that same class learning the same material, but they'll take the end of grade, 8th grade, science and math milestones, which Ms. Brooks did say the 8th grade math milestones was much easier than the Algebra 1 EOC test. If they stay in the course, the high school courses, then in mid-April, we'll send home a parent letter, and they will choose whether or not they want to keep the Carnegie unit, which is the high school credit, on their transcripts. And they will have until May the 22nd to tell us if they want the high school credit or not. And if we don't hear from them, it states in the letter that that is you agreeing to take the high school credit. Because once superintendent signs off on it, you've got it, whether you took it or not. There is no changing.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
And then I sent a doodle polling out today for you all for the 3rd and 4th weeks in January, for you all to put your availability so that we could share with the 2 deans for our availability to help do classroom observations. So it's about an hour of your time.
Okay. Great, thank you. Development Committee.
Tomorrow is the third Chick-fil-A Spirit Night of the year, and our own Mr. Willis and Mrs. Robinson, our STEAM and digital media teachers, AKA the tech team, will be hosting tomorrow night. So all the proceeds will go to to those teams. In addition, the Chick-fil-A marketing team came in before Thanksgiving break to reward Mrs. Sherrard's and Mrs. Van Gun's classes with gift cards for winning the September and October contest for the most students in attendance during their respective nights. The annual fund kicked off on Tuesday, November the 15th, and it's planned to run through next week before we get out of school. The request for participation is $5 per family this year. However, a lot of people have been sending in $1 because they're used to the $1 from last year. And since it's not a campaign about how much money we're collecting, it's more about if they're participating at all. It doesn't matter, so it's just the recommended participation of $5 a family, but whatever is coming in, we are definitely accepting it. The participation campaign and golf tournament are both a part of the annual fund, so the participation rate information can be used on grant applications and other sources that the school tries to apply for throughout the year. We're currently at 21% participation rate compared to last year's ending rate of 86%. So we're gonna put out some more signs tomorrow, try to send flyers home again and kind of push it this week and next week a little more. I do believe with everybody coming back off the break last week, that had something to do with it. And then, it going out right before the break. But we did this around the same time last year, so I'm not sure.
Do we happen to, I know we're taking on the expense of all the things we send home, but do we send home like envelopes? You know, something for the kids easy to bring in?
Last year we did, but this year because, they need to have they need to get a receipt for whatever is brought in, we're having the kids bring it, the kids bring it straight to the front. Last year we sent envelopes home, the teachers collected it, and then they brought it up. They're not doing it that way.
If it's cash.
Yes, if
So
it's
it-
cash has to be brought straight to the front.
To the office?
Mhm. So I didn't spend money on the envelopes because we were pushing people to try to use the online source, because we also put that out there to use the online.
But we did have that one parent that contacted me that tried to make the online donation, and she said the online donation wasn't working. Because remember,
But I went in
contacted
that
you.
day and I sent it on back, I went in that day and I
Yeah,
tried it.
and you said it was
comes-
working.
Yes.
Because I emailed her back today and was like, hey, were you ever able to get the online donation working? Because I was told it is now working.
And we received Neva printed two that came through that way, so two, separate parents that came through the online donation, so it's working. It could have been a glitch that day, could be if she used it from her phone, it could be a number of reasons.
Do we have anything, large that we could set up in Chick-fil-A, like, hey, while you're here, scan this QR code and then.
So tomorrow, for tomorrow at Chick-fil-A night, since it's already a fundraiser for the STEAM team, what I was just gonna do is the flyers that we are sending home, cause, it's to pass those out, yes, have a link straight to the website they wanna scan it, but not really push it, cause I want them to focus on like spending money on
Double dip
food
charity.
tomorrow, right? So,
Order extra fries and contribute to.
correct, and the fact that to collect money, we have policies in place, so I would have to have a certain setup for tomorrow, so we're not.
No, not cash, I'm strictly online.
Yeah, if they want to do online, yes, I sure do have the scan.
Um,
I added that to the flyer this time.
So there's only certain people in the school who are allowed to accept money.
Yes. Cash.
So would it work, I'm just throwing ideas out, if we maybe like try the envelope, but then have that person go like classroom to classroom, and it was kind of a pain, but it could just kind of.
No, if it gets sent in with the child just has to take it to the front, off to the front.
Well, I know, but I'm saying like
If they
logistically,
forget
yeah.
to take it to the office.
I thought that teachers could collect sealed envelopes and take them to the phone.
Nope, they changed.
Not anymore.
Okay.
Or who's certified to collect cash?
Neva Velasquez and Jennifer Mullinex, and then of course, when we hire the lunch person, they will collect the lunch, because
Okay.
Neva and the lunch person collected lunch. Neva and Jennifer, then I don't even touch cash.
I'm trying to find a way to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
My advisor told me some schools are going to no cash at all.
Just digital.
That's what we originally were
Correct,
supposed
because
to
it's
be.
such a
tried
sticky
that.
situation.
We
but-
changed our
Yeah.
mind the first year, but we originally were starting out as cashless, and I really think we should
I mean,
move
unless
toward
we can
that.
take like
Better
payments
controls.
from like.
We gotta make it so you can just like
Apple
text
Pay.
Yeah, Apple Pay, like
LT.
you scan it and it goes on their
LCTS.
phone bill and the school thanks you.
Yeah, text LCTS to.
Yeah, so we looked into
555.
that, because, Chattahoochee Charter School and some other schools have the texting, and it does cost us to do that, so that's why we didn't move forward with that, we looked into that, like.
But in something like
a
this
second.
where money's not the issue.
I was gonna say, is it expensive? Do you know how much it is?
I'm sure.
I
it's
mean,
fine.
even if it was 10% of a transaction, right, like we want
It was,
percentage of participation more than the dollars.
I'll go back and find it, because I did,
The only thing scary is that it's like $4 per text and
No, I'm clicking too.
we're losing money every text.
So anything, I mean, obviously, it's simplicity, right? I mean, I don't know if we have numbers of parents that we get text out, whatever we could find.
so
to
we'll
make it
look at another
easier.
solution,
Yeah.
another solution for it, and then try to bring it back for next time, for the next meeting, because again, it's about participation and not for
Yeah.
money, so we can extend it and still do it in January.
I was gonna ask, do you
Yeah,
want?
I would like to
push it
suggest
back
that
out?
we push it out to the end of January.
Maybe I'll
after
get
the
a, I'll get a
holidays.
big
I think
stack
it's a
of
lot
fives and I'll
more.
stand at one end of the car line, pass them out,
That's it.
turn it back in at the front.
So yes, from our committee, want to suggest that we extended it out, and then, since it's more about participation and not the money,
Yeah.
so, okay, we'll do January. Esther's next.
Okay. We had a meeting right before the break, where I was able to document some of the processes, basically did a walkthrough. I'm writing that up just so we do have that documented as far as who now is in control of what tasks and just making sure that we have some internal controls in place. We are gonna start regular monthly meetings now that we're allowed to do that over the phone. I didn't set it up because initially what we had talked about doing was the first Monday of the month, that way it was the week before this
Mhm.
meeting. That was the day after they got back from Thanksgiving break, so I mean, that wasn't gonna pan out. With our discussion of potentially changing this meeting date, I've just kind of set that to the side as far as setting up a reoccurring meeting, but we will be doing that and we'll publicize it, once we get everything else ironed out. I'm hoping that we're gonna be a little more current. I know that there's still some, catch-up that was going on, but I just got the October numbers last week, and I was unfortunately out of town. I've looked over some things, and made a few more requests, Celeste to send me some things. I mean, nothing looked odd. We just got some credit balances, or debit balances and our liabilities, a few little things like that I want to ask for some questions on. But, I think, going forward, we're just gonna try to do a regular meeting from where that week before.
So when you walk through some of the procedures, did you feel like there's appropriate separation,
Yeah.
checks and balances?
Yes, there is, major things you want to look for is the same person that opens the bank statement should not be the person that's cutting checks. That should not be the person that goes to the bank, that kind of thing. So there is enough, obviously, just being smaller, and we're limited to the number of bodies we actually have that can touch that. But I think that there is enough division of labor where we're okay, we're covered, there was no red flags. And I see that a lot with my clients where it was a small front office, so you do have to be a little creative in the way that you divide up some of that workload. But I think we're good on that. We're still gonna do some more looking into the cash balance, because this is good. And I don't know what we can do potentially, we're gonna discuss some plans, if there's some way we could use those to our advantage, make some interest, earn some interest possibly. So, that's something that we can always
Thinking
talk
about
about.
it at school some red flags running.
Yeah. I
It
don't know
it is
if you're-
tricky,
Yeah.
I mean, so, but I'm sure they'll
Well, if we had a,
march through it carefully.
if we had a foundation, no, if we had a foundation, maybe some of this.
That's right.
These
That was
outside
one of the
funds
things
could
we were
go
supposed
to,
to try to get to.
because some of these other sources of income could go there.
That's right. Anything that's donated by parents, you know, yeah, you could
Mhm.
absolutely be, heck, you could put it in the stock market, you know,
Mhm.
but the
Mhm.
Government.
federally provided funds
They,
are,
they frown on
there's a lot of
We need
limitations.
to look into that though, because I would think even a sweep account or some type of a money market or something that's still within that same account, but just it functions a little better.
Yeah.
So I would just be, I'll see if I can find anything out. We did notice a few things in our, policies that we had highlighted and we're gonna work toward, just updating. Nothing, really major, but just a few little inconsistencies here and there. But, once we nail down our meeting for this, then we'll get together and figure out when we can do a monthly conference call.
And I know I'm jumping out of order here, but state charter, I was supposed to receive the report on any findings this Friday, but then I received an email from Katie Manthe last week. They have moved it to January, I think it's 20th. And then if we have an action plan that's needed, it will be due April the 8th. So they pushed it back a little bit.
Oh, and as far as our ratios on a monthly basis, the only one that was out of whack was the enrollment, that did not meet that goal where we would get those points. But that's just this 1 month.
Okay.
Every other month, we've been fine on those ratios.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So governance, Kenny sent out a couple updates. So the pre-K application still has not been posted. He continues to check weekly. We do need to discuss board meeting dates.
So that's down in the, we gotta look in the approval,
Things to
in the
vote on.
approval section.
So,
But I had the mandatory, the governance training, we had the reminder that the deadline to register for that is January 2nd for the February training. So for you and Tony to please, make sure you do that. If you need the link again, let us know. And then I had from him committee meetings from last time, please update meeting schedules and send those to me to update on the website. Because I know people are kind of changing things around now, new schedules this half of the year. And then the mandated reporter renewals and background checks, all of the board has completed the training, so yay. And the special governance meeting, Kenny will send out a new doodle poll because, getting us to get together between the last meeting and December 6th just didn't work out. So look out for an updated poll to come out for him, for January possibilities. Go ahead.
Is there anything with that that's time sensitive?
That, the mission vision, no.
I mean, is it something that we punt to the summer when we have extremely short meetings as it is?
so, I would say I'd love to, and had it not been for this discussion here, I would say, yeah, let's wait. But if, I believe, I mean, the most likely cause of something like that is a cultural thing. And if it's a cultural piece, then I think, and I don't know if our touch on it is very light and your touch on it with the staff is very heavy right now to work through that, but I think our vision and mission statement is, in my opinion, it's pretty important right now.
Good.
But yeah, I'd love to, December is just the worst month,
Mhm.
but I'd still like us to try.
Good.
Okay. All right, thank you for those updates. So, we'll do the easy one first. I motion that we approve the November meeting minutes as distributed by Andrea.
Second.
All in favor?
Brian, we got your
Tony
opinion?
votes in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Prior to us voting, do we need to have a discussion around the scheduling of the board meeting? Are there questions that people have, concerns?
I have one question.
All right.
We move it to the 4th. November and December, 4th Mondays are going to be Thanksgiving break, and then close to
Holiday break.
New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you know
Labor
it's
Day
coming.
and-
So would we,
Memorial Day.
those two, would we?
We have to.
Okay, that was my question. Would we just change those 2 months, or if there's a month that
Well,
it
it's-
is over?
The schedule is not set as Monday, those are just the dates we're picking, right? So we could pick
So you
different
could,
dates those
uh-huh.
months.
But it was easier to keep it at the
Yeah,
second.
sure.
That's just a way that we just define the dates arbitrarily, not arbitrarily, but
So
with
we
some.
could keep it
consist-
4th Monday, other than a few,
Yeah, it's,
or
it's
if we
it's
felt.
more that it's December 9th is the meeting, not that it's the second Monday, right? So we set the meeting, we set the schedule, we publish them,
Right.
that's all we have to do.
Yeah, that's as far as the rules, yeah.
So we just adjust accordingly.
And who knows, I mean, for the next school year, somebody else.
Sounded like you had a concern with the fourth Monday
Fourth.
conflicting.
Yeah, I have, with other commitments, they typically line up to the last week of the month for 2 months out of the year. And it's typically like every night of the week. So that puts me in a bind for 2 months out of the year.
Allowed to miss two.
Well, that's kinda close.
Just don't talk to us about three.
Yeah. So that's the only difficult part. So it's August and January. And it's not locked, I'm just saying it's traditionally been that. I mean, when the actual schedules come out, we have flexibility, but it's one of those things I always know ahead of time that's worked out nice because it's always missed. Being the fourth, being the second Monday.
Okay. Tony, any concerns on your end about the fourth Monday?
My only question about it was going to be, what you addressed is how does that really interact with the school schedule?
Yeah, we'll have to.
We'll have to address it on those specific months, because you're gonna hit May, November, and December, but,
Right.
I looked it up and emailed back out, saying, so for this, going into this next school year, those were
The
the
May
three
is-
months.
yeah.
It was the May.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
And again, I mean, this is to me, this was like to put it for the remainder of the school year, because somebody's commitments could change next year. You get new
Absolutely,
people on,
yes.
so it could change again, but all we're saying is we're just trying
For
to set it
this
for
academic
this
year.
academic year.
Yeah.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, so May would be the only conflict at that point,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Well, any open other discussion points on this, or are we ready to vote? All right, well, I motion that we change our board meeting to the fourth Monday of each month, pending a school calendar conflict with that day for the remainder of this school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Tony votes in favor.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So, are we, do we have topics to discuss in executive session? No. Any board members have any topics to discuss in executive session?
I do
I
not.
motion that we adjourn the meeting.
The
Oh.
other question was on the new board member. So did Adam get,
I have not heard from Adam Wilson.
okay, so that's a follow for the next one.
Is there a,
He's
do
completed
we
all
all
the
have to look
paperwork.
at something, or is it just, because
So-
everybody's voting, but not everybody's talking to them?
So anybody can talk to him who would like to talk to him. He does get interviewed by two
yeah,
board
do we
members.
have paperwork on them?
Yes, we have
His
like
resume
resume and all that. and
Did you send it
score
out to everybody?
application.
It's been a while. that we got his resume.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, please do resend that around,
Okay,
just
I'll
so
do
that
that.
people have it, so that if questions do arise, there's time to ask them.
Okay,
mhm.
I will do that.
And then, I mean, it goes without saying, but we are small in number, so we do need to think about,
Really then.
friends and colleagues and, associates, neighbors, distant relatives.
Or one thing we could do, the contact that we
PTO.
made at the training, go back to, because I was telling them kind of our dilemma with us being far down here. We tried to use the network that was provided through the SCSC, but
We're in the
no,
middle of
we're
nowhere.
too far out of radius for the applicants.
Yeah.
So, he said that we can reach out to him and try to come up with some other ideas, so from the governance committee, we could do that.
I'm also gonna reach out to my advisor because she said she can also help with board recruitment.
Because we
She's
have that
actually working with a
letter,
couple of boards now that just struggle in general, not, I mean, there are other issues, not just size, but
Mhm.
she said she could help with board recruitment.
that's perfect.
What do we go for, board?
Should be
So,
13, I
we would-
think it's going
Yeah.
to be
We need
13.
more room.
Well,
But that helps if somebody's out and you still need to vote or whatever, you can actually be sick or whatever.
well, I mean, all of our committees right now, you know, we're struggling to get 2 people per committee, and that's
Mhm.
pretty rough.
Yeah.
So I guess the question would be, in terms of recruitment, are we more in demand of committee membership? Or, I mean,
We'll take, come one, come all at this point, but, I mean, the things that we had targeted when we were, you know, so we did this is what perfect would look like potentially, and what are we missing? So, a legal professional would be a huge win, a medical professional would be a huge win.
A retired
a-
educator.
Yeah,
who's not
teacher or
retired.
school
Right.
administrator
Right.
would be a huge win. Those are probably the 3 big ones that
Yep.
would just be grand slam hits,
Yep.
so.
gotcha.
So, all right, I, motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
How many votes in favor?
There we go.
Motion passes. Thank you all.